This is the Almost Timely newsletter for the week of August 7th, 2022. What's on my mind this week? The sea change in marketing. This past week, I had the pleasure of talking with folks about how AI is impacting marketing at the annual MAICON conference, the Marketing AI conference in Cleveland. And one of the points that I made is worth digging into here, the sea change in marketing. Now, C, S-E-A, is a silly acronym that I made up that stands for somebody else's AI. And it is the single biggest obstacle to our marketing in today's modern era, assuming that we have a product or service that doesn't suck. Take a moment to think about this. How much of your daily life, as a consumer, as an ordinary person, is mediated by somebody else's AI? If you shop on big sites like Amazon or eBay, someone else's AI is nudging you strongly with product suggestions, what to buy. If you search on a search engine like Google, Bing, or DuckDuckGo, someone else's AI is controlling what you do and don't find. There may be entire corners of the web that you'll never see or experience because someone else's AI has decided that it's not appropriate for you or it's not relevant to what you were searching for. If you listen to music on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the music platforms out there, someone else's AI is determining what songs to recommend to you, especially if you're doing stuff like, putting together playlists. If you watch shows on platforms like Netflix or Amazon Prime, someone else's AI is suggesting to you all the time what shows you should watch, what content you should consume. Same with YouTube, right? If you consume news, especially through news apps like Apple News, Google News, etc., or a social network, someone else's AI is determining what the news is, what news to show you, and what news you shouldn't see. If you participate in mainstream social media like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, etc., someone else's AI is telling you what to watch, who to listen to, even which of your friends are important to you. Now, as consumers, many of these recommendations aren't necessarily bad, right? Spotify can recommend new songs or music to us that we might not otherwise find. Netflix can surface shows we might never even think to watch. We can debate the merits of recommendation engines, which is the AI technology behind all these methods of filtering the enormous amounts of content available to us another time. But the reality is that much of our reality as consumers is a mediated experience, and it's mediated by someone else's AI. As marketers, this can really, really suck. Marketer, I don't have control over whether Facebook shows my post or not, even if someone's liked my page, right? I don't have control over whether Google lists my website for a relevant term on page 1 or page 175, right, of its results, despite what Google says in their webmaster chats and public materials. I don't have control over whether YouTube recommends this video, right? Or Instagram shows my reel to my friends, or TikTok puts my video in the For You page. Someone else's AI is in charge of all that, and it's out of my control. I can follow all the best practices and still gain no ground. In fact, in the last few years, someone else's AI has made things extremely difficult for us as marketers. It used to be that the risk of content performing poorly due to someone else's AI was fairly low because the investment was relatively low, right? You publish a tweet and it goes nowhere. So what? Big deal, right? No, we try again. Tweets are easy. You can crank those out like crazy. Then images became the preferred format, right? Instagram, Pinterest, etc. Requires more effort, right? More resources. Not a ton more, but it's more effort to get out a camera and take a picture than it is just to type a bunch of words. Then came audio, right? Podcasts became sort of the favored thing. Then videos. And now we're at a point where just to satisfy someone else's AI, we have to substantially invest in content creation abilities that are very, very expensive. Even though it seems short and silly, something like a TikTok video or an Instagram reel, that content, putting it together, coming up with a storyline that fits in 60 seconds, doing the visuals, the titling, all of the stuff, that's a big investment, right? And when our efforts fall flat, We've burned a lot more resources assembling that 60-second video that sounds short, but it really isn't, compared to a tweet that nobody liked, right? And it's going to get worse, right? As we see companies like Facebook push harder and harder for more complex media formats like their metaverse, we should see the writing on the wall. Only those willing to pay a lot of money and invest a lot of time are going to do well with someone else's AI. I was listening to a podcast on my drive back from MAICON about how Facebook is investing super heavily in 3D capabilities to create content for the metaverse, and how you can use this certain type of machine learning to generate 3D images from a series of videos or still images. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is not within reach of like 99.9% of companies. Just the big brands with the big budgets, which is who Facebook really wants to get after, are going to be able to afford to do this. You and I, small businesses, we're going to be out of luck in the metaverse because we can't afford to put this stuff together. So, as a marketer, what do I do to escape this rat race? I need 2 insurance policies against someone else's AI. If I invest suitably in both these insurance policies, and they are substantial investments over a long period of time, I will circumvent and mitigate the worst effects of someone else's AI. Insurance policy number 1 is my brand, the brand of my company, my products and services, even me as a person, right? When you think of getting help with analytics or marketing operations, and the first thing you think about is my company, Trust Insights, then instead of looking for help generally, you'll probably Google my company, or maybe even just type my company's domain name, trustinsights.ai, directly into your browser. My brand strength dramatically reduces the chances that someone else's AI recommends somebody else, that they divert you away from me, right? That's brand strength. Remember that brand is a relatively simple mathematical formula, right? It is reputation plus recall, right? We want people to remember us for good things, and we want people to remember us, period. And we accomplish that by investing heavily in the relationships we have with our audience, plus having products and services that don't suck. These days, that latter part seems to be harder than normal for a lot of companies. So that's policy number 1. Policy number 2 is my community, the people that I've built good relationships with over time, like you and I. Right? Ideally, I have a mechanism of communication with my community that doesn't have someone else's AI involved at all, like this newsletter. Thank you for subscribing and reading. Or something like my Slack group. Go to trustinsights.ai/analytics for marketers to see that. Or a Discord server where there's no algorithm, no recommendation is competing against me. It's just a direct line from me to you. It could be an old school BBS, right? Or a forum. Heck, I mean, even a print magazine plus a P.O. box where you can send postal mail back to me. That's a direct line. It's still a direct line. Whatever we choose for insurance policy 2, as long as we have a direct line to you and you have a direct line to me, I've got that insurance policy against someone else's AI. It's only when we have an intermediate step, like a Facebook feed, right, or a LinkedIn feed, where we're competing against other stuff there, that the insurance policy is null and void. So direct line with our community is insurance policy number 2. Why am I spending so much time on this? And why, as someone who talks a lot about AI and its benefits, am I railing against AI? Well, it's not AI in general. It's someone else's AI. All artificial intelligence is optimized for specific outcomes. And unless we are the engineers building these software models, we don't necessarily know what those outcomes are, but we can make some fairly decent guesses, right? What is Facebook's AI optimized for? Making Facebook money, right? It's not making Facebook plus me, the marketer, some money. It's just making Facebook money. What's TikTok's AI optimized for? How about LinkedIn, Netflix, Twitter, right? Everyone else's AI is optimized for making money for them, right? Every instance of someone else's AI is optimized for them, not for us, not marketers, right? The customer, the consumer may be in there somewhere, but us marketers, we're not in there. As marketers, in many cases, we are the enemy of someone else's AI because we are taking away potential money that the parent companies' AI could be diverting to them, right? It's one of the reasons why we've seen influencers steadily losing ground on mainstream social networks over time, because those dollars that go to like an Instagram influencer, Instagram knows those are dollars not going to Instagram, right? They're not lining Mark Zuckerberg's pockets. So, of course, their AI is going to say, well, you're the enemy, so we're going to start taking attention away from you, diverting it elsewhere, diverting it to accounts or content that isn't competing with our ad dollars. Of course, their AI is optimized to keep dollars in their pockets, right? As marketers, particularly for unpaid social media, someone else's AI is not our friend, right? It's critical to understand that someone else's AI is not our friend. It's not our ally. At best, they are a temporary help to us, right? They're a temporary convenience. Maybe we get lucky. But from a strategic perspective, our priority should always be to evacuate our audience and our customers from someone else's AI as quickly as we possibly can into a channel where there's nothing between us and our customers, because someone else's AI is trying to do that to us every second of every day. Okay? Get away from someone else's AI. That's the sea change that's happening in marketing. And it's been happening for a long time, but it's getting worse and worse and worse. And as preferred content gets more and more complex, the deck is stacked more and more against us. So get your audience away from someone else's AI, please. Okay. What else is happening in the world? In case you missed it this week, besides, of course, the Google Analytics 4 course that I'm relentlessly flogging, I did a piece this week on demand generation tips. Some really good questions came in this week. So there's that piece. There's a piece I did on heartbeats, on making sure that you have a rhythm for staying in touch with people, counterintuitive email marketing strategies, a fun podcast episode I did with Katie on attitude and aptitude in hiring and how to find non-traditional candidates to fill those hiring gaps. Let's see, new jobs from the community. Again, you can find these all in the Analytics for Marketers Slack. We have Senior Informatics and Interoperability Manager at the American Medical Association, Community Manager at Turkle, Manager of Digital Analytics at Zagat, the food recommendation company, Experimentation Lead at Stepstone, and Digital Web Analytics Senior Analyst, that's a mouthful, at Express Scripts. So some cool stuff going on there. In other news, we have a comparison of Agora Pulse and Sprout Social, how to search for TikTok on just about anything, which TikTok is, by the way, is becoming a search engine. If in many cases it already is. What you can learn from climate change contrarians by our friend Ginny Dietrich. Some stuff on Shopify, SEO, how model explainability accelerates the adoption of AI over at KD Nuggets. Some debates about ETL versus ELT, and these are not sandwiches. These are strategies for loading data, and some new content from IBM. Coming up, I have a webinar in August with Site Improve. There's a link. It is free to attend. We're going to be talking about my checklist for analyzing data. Content Marketing World in September in Cleveland, Marketing Profs B2B Forum here in October. We're going to be doing a workshop with Katie, an all-day workshop, plus a talk on private social media networks, and HeapCom in Belgrade, Serbia. And the big promotional item this week, if you didn't get a chance to make it to MAICON, my talk from the event is up. It is viewable on the Trust Insights website. Got a link right at the top of the newsletter if you want to check that out. Had a really good time. The folks at MAICON put on a great event, and fingers crossed so far, still testing negative for COVID. I did wear the crazy mask and brought I brought a bunch of precautions along that I'm pretty sure nobody else will ever do. I brought a little CO2 monitor to measure the density of CO2 in the room, because the more CO2 there is, means the less a venue is ventilating its air with the outside air, which is important. And I brought two big 20-inch box fans with MERV 13 filters on them to basically filter the air on stage and create a little air bubble around me while I was talking. That seemed to have done a pretty good job, at least from what my CO2 monitor was showing. So that was a lot of fun. I'll be bringing all that setup back to Content Marketing World. So if you missed it at MAICON, you can check it out at Content Marketing World. But that's the news for this week. Again, stay safe. It is a crazy world out there. It's a crazy world out there. Stay safe. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.